Hey everyone, this is MNL2, and today in this video, I am going to fix Six Flags Magic Mountain. Okay, not actually. I'm going to enter the land of a hypothetical scenario in which I had full control over Six Flags Magic Mountain because I personally believe that there are numerous ways to improve this park. Now, I don't want to disregard the efforts made to improve this park by its management, but with a certain someone under the control of the entire Six Flags company, it seems that conditions have not really improved very much for Magic Mountain particularly. I'm also not ignoring the rest of the Six Flags parks. I'm just not familiar enough with the way that they are run or how they operate, so that's why I just want to focus on Magic Mountain specifically. Anyways, if you find yourself enjoying any of my videos or find them interesting, informative, or entertaining in any way, then please remember to leave a like and subscribe to help out the channel. Thank you and enjoy. So before I begin, I do want to set a bit of a parameter. This is all going to be purely hypothetical and in a world in which I have an infinite yet realistic budget. By this I mean I'm not really going to calculate how much all of these changes would cost, but I'm going to try my best to consider the realistic budget of Six Flags. For the most part. So for starters, I think the very first and probably most realistic thing I would want to do is immediately bring back memberships. The Six Flags memberships that we all knew and loved were, in my opinion, absolutely goated. I had not a single complaint about this monthly pass option, and I still have mine today because of how legendary the benefits and value of these memberships are. Not only were they significantly cheaper than some other theme park chains, but the value with each pass is absurd. A while back, I made a full video breaking down the newer but now outdated Six Flags passes compared to the membership, but to sum that video up, by having a membership, you essentially paid less to receive more. Also, I would like to acknowledge the main flaw that Salim Basoul found with these passes, which was that they were stratifying the park's attendance without considerably higher profits due to the lower prices. This also made the parks much more crowded, reducing the guest experience overall. However, I have some plans to combat this dilemma that I would like to discuss. The first would be, I guess, to slightly raise the prices, not skyrocketing them or changing the system entirely, but perhaps charging a few more bucks per month for the memberships. Another great strategy would be a major improvement to overall park efficiency. So as of right now, you can bring your bags and loose articles inside of the loading stations to pretty much every roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain except for X2 and Wonder Woman. Now, I've never been a fan of mandatory paid lockers. However, after visiting Universal's Islands of Adventure and experiencing the near flawless system of free mandatory lockers on rides like Velocicoaster or Hagrid's, I would absolutely love to implement that in a park like Magic Mountain. Even Cedar Fair managed to do it with Steel Vengeance and Twisted Timbers. The major coasters at Six Flags Magic Mountain could heavily benefit from this implementation, especially rides like Twisted Colossus, Tatsu, Full Throttle, Goliath, Sunday the Ride, Riddlers, Batman, and even Apocalypse. Some of the smaller coasters could honestly update their policies and allow bags to be brought on board, like on Gold Rusher, Ninja, or Revolution. West Coast Racers already has a great system in place, but it only works because you load and unload from the same side of the station, which is not the case for any other coaster at this park, with a weird exception for X2. While on the topic of efficiency, there are a few specific rides that I would like to upgrade in terms of efficiency. Since I just briefly talked about West Coast Racers, let's start there. As I just mentioned, it has a super effective system in which you place your stuff in free bins before getting to the loading gates, which makes it much faster to board the ride. Something I kinda always wanted with this ride, however, was for the waiting block behind the loading station to be used as an unload station. The train is already entirely inside of the station building and already parks right next to the exit gate and the bins, so if guests were able to get out right here, it will make dispatches so much faster because the next guests don't have to wait for the previous guests to climb out of these extremely cramped skyrocket trains. Another ride I want to focus on is Tatsu. Tatsu was designed to run 3 trains with 2 loading stations. However, I can't remember a time in which this was even the case. Now, I know it would be expensive in terms of maintenance, but at least on the peak busy days, I feel like Tatsu could heavily benefit from using both stations with 3 trains. Pair that with the free locker system that could be implemented somehow, and now you've got godly capacity on one of the most popular rides in the park. Now let's look at X2. Simple solution here, start using the unload station again. It literally already has one, and I'm not saying that you need to start running 3 trains, but even with 2 trains and the unload station, guests don't have to wait for the previous ones to get off, as the next train that rolls in will already be empty. Next, I want to talk about general ride improvements, starting with Twisted Colossus. I probably mentioned some of these in my videos talking about things that I want to upgrade about Magic Mountain's rides, but anyways, I would love for Twisted Colossus to be reprogrammed in a way that is similar to West Coast Racers, so that the train that completes the first lap will be forced to wait on the brake run before the second lift hill until the other train is ready to dispatch to guarantee a duel every time. To make it less awkward, a cool mid-ride scene could be constructed with some cool steampunk theming or something else. Also, speaking of steampunk, you probably already know what I want to happen with Scream. Anyways, coupling this new programming with the mandatory free lockers will probably reduce how long the train would have to stay stopped on this brake run anyways, which results in shorter lines and guarantees duels on every single ride as long as it's running 3 trains. On 2 trains, this programming would probably be inefficient, both enough enough dedication to maintenance, I feel that this ride could always run 3, just like West Coast Racers. Now I want to take a look at the Riddler's Revenge. This is probably a bizarre upgrade that I'd want to see, but with the introduction of the new surf coaster coming to SeaWorld Orlando, I would love to see Riddler's entirely renovated and retrofitted with the brand new surf coaster trains. Heck, even replace its lift hill with an uphill LSM launch very similar to Lightning Rod or Maverick so that it could work with those new trains. This would also give the ride a shorter duration, which compensates for the faster dispatches as a result of the mandatory free lockers. Moving on, I already have concepts for Viper, Sunday the Ride, and Apocalypse, so feel free to check those out as well. Oh, and speaking of Sunday the Ride, if I was in complete control, you know sure as heck that I would officially change that ride's name to Sunday the Ride. I also wanted to talk about Goliath. If you guys saw my video ranking my absolute least favorite roller coasters that I've been on, then you'll know exactly how I feel about Goliath. If I wanted to disregard reality and be completely unreasonable, then I would tear down this ride and replace it with literally anything else. However, in a realistic lens, this ride is a huge draw for the general public, and there are even a handful of enthusiasts that enjoy this roller coaster, so I would keep it for that reason. In terms of enhancing it, I really think it's a lost cause, and I don't really think there's much that could be done. I guess just reprogram the lift hill so that it doesn't crawl at a snail's pace at the top, so that it could maybe offer some airtime going over it, but that's about it. If anyone else has any better ideas, then feel free to comment them down below. Lastly, Justice League Battle for Metropolis. Simply just make sure all of the special effects actually work and are upkept. That ride used to be freaking incredible, but now it's such a letdown. Not sure how all the other Six Flags Justice Leagues are holding out, but ours is definitely degraded. Before I move on from talking about attractions, I do want to briefly bring up Sky Tower. I think it really can't be that difficult or unreasonably expensive to either repair it or just straight up replace and renovate the elevator for this iconic tower, because the outdated elevator is the sole reason as to why this attraction has been sitting practically abandoned for years. Simply putting in a new modern elevator and adding something cool like a sky lounge in the top would easily bring some life into this classic attraction. I know there's a concern that this ride's attendance was too low to be worth the cost, but come on. If Knott's has been able to maintain and operate Sky Cabin for the past 48 years and it still gets attendance, then I feel this tower could easily survive. Now I want to shift focus to the park infrastructure and how it operates. For starters, I want to mention that I personally think relocating the park entrance is a really bad idea. Yeah, it would be convenient to not have to walk very far to get to the entrance from the parking lot if it was located near Screaming Twisted Colossus. However, I don't think many people have taken account for the amount of infrastructural reworking that would be required. First of all, even if this was just a quote-quote side entrance and the main entrance still remained the quote-quote main entrance, then you know sure as heck that absolutely nobody who parks in the main parking lot is going to walk all the way over to the main entrance. Everyone will want to use this new side entrance. The main entrance that we already have is already extremely crowded and congested on busier days, so adding a smaller, even more congested entrance is not going to end well at all. So going back to the infrastructure, a main entrance doesn't just consist of a few turnstiles and that's it. You're also going to need ticket booths, a security checkpoint, aka metal detectors, nearby restrooms, a nice big sign, and enough foot space for people just to be there. Then, once you get inside the park, you're definitely going to need a guest services / main information location, a Flash Pass building, a Six Flags photo location, and ideally some entry shops like the Funnel Cake store or the Emporium. That also comes with places to sit. This tiny corner of Six Flags Magic Mountain absolutely does not have all of the space for this, and even if it did, all that stuff would have to be entirely constructed from scratch, which doesn't make much sense to me when all that stuff already exists at the main entrance, and the only point of this investment would be to save people like 10 to 20 minutes of walking or riding the shuttle. Also, it would be very awkward to enter this park and then you're just randomly in the back of one of the themed areas as opposed to the main entrance that greets you with a grand waterfall and a nice big plaza. Admittedly, the walk to the main entrance can kinda suck the further you park, especially if you're all the way in the dirt lot, but I feel like the really easy solution would be just to run more shuttles at a time and making sure they're available before the park opens. And then past that, maybe renovate the entrance a bit more with a more welcoming sign and enhancing the area where the turnstiles are. Once actually inside the park, I think the park could definitely benefit from bringing back those mist machines that used to be present all over the park. Also, I know this is easier said than done, but I would love to see more staffing at most locations, especially at some of the more popular rides and food locations. More staff pretty much directly leads to higher efficiency and reduced wait times. I definitely know that from working at a theme park myself. Some other things I wanted to mention were making better use of some of the abandoned space in the park. At a park like Knott's Berry Farm, where it's undoubtedly landlocked and does not have much square footage to begin with, it's important that they use every inch of space for anything they possibly can. Magic Mountain has a bit more of a luxury as they have way more room to work with, and a lot of it is either undeveloped or previously developed and now sits abandoned. For example, the Laughing Dragon Pizza, and frankly a lot of Samurai Summit, like the buildings that are used for the Fright Fest mazes, the building that used to be Apocalypse's gift shop, the area by Jetstream where the old Dragon Transport ride used to be, the area where former Deja Vu and the abandoned Slingshot sit, the area where Flashback used to be. Yes, I know that some of these areas are used by Fright Fest, but I think that using large sections sections of your park for like a month and a half out of the year is pretty wasteful of that land. This also applies to the Golden Bear Theater. Magic Mountain could really use some more flat rides, and I think a large one could replace the hardly used Golden Bear Theater. And if you don't want to replace it with the ride or ride package, then at least use the dang thing more often than like once a year. Nearby the Golden Theater sits Bugs Bunny World and the Whistle Stop Park. Now, I'm sure that the Whistle Stop Park thrived when it was themed to Thomas the Tank Engine, but nowadays that section is just so depressing and neglected. I think the better idea is just to merge this section with Bugs Bunny World. You can definitely keep Magic Flyer and the Whistle Stop Train, just retheme them to Looney Tunes characters and connect the two lands together, and boom, one large epic kids section. Sorry for jumping around a bit, but I briefly mentioned Laughing Dragon earlier. I would really love to see this turned into a nice Italian restaurant, because that's something this park is really missing. Just a more authentic sit-down restaurant in general. Some of the more expensive theme parks have authentic, higher quality sit-down restaurants like Disney or Universal, but even SeaWorld manages to have some fancier restaurants. And I feel like that's something that Magic Mountain just doesn't have at all, and would be awesome to include. I don't know what the condition of this building is, as it seems pretty run down and it's probably infested with rodents, so I wouldn't mind just completely demolishing this building and constructing a brand new one in the same spot from scratch. It would also be amazing if it had an outdoor eating section on the other side of the restaurant, which would give fantastic views of Full Throttle and the Full Throttle Plaza, especially at night with the energetic light shows that play there. So I never really mentioned time frames or any of these renovations or changes, and I know not all of these things are going to be done immediately, and it could take several years for everything I mentioned to be implemented. Another really long-term implementation I would love to see would be the transformation of this park into a full resort. I didn't mention Hurricane Harbor at all, but by further upkeeping this water park, Magic Mountain already has a great foundation for becoming a full resort. All that's missing is a hotel and a marketplace, or something similar to Downtown Disney, Universal City Walk, or even the Knott's Marketplace. I think it would be awesome to use that empty land to the right of the parking tolls to construct a massive Six Flags Magic Mountain hotel, as well as a marketplace slash shopping center with good restaurants, gift shops, activities, etc. Literally just like Downtown Disney or Universal City Walk. Maybe you could even do two hotels of contrasting styles. Maybe one of them is a lot more inexpensive and standard, and the other one is a more luxury style hotel, or you could go with the Cedar Point route and make one like a campground like Lighthouse Point, and the other a traditional hotel like Breakers. And then you could connect a bridge over the road to the main entrance, giving the hotel guests a much shorter walk to the park, also making the marketplace super accessible by all park guests. Overall, I feel that Magic Mountain just has so much potential for being one of the greatest and most loved coaster destinations on the planet, and turning it into a full resort would be a huge leap towards making this place a full, all-in-one destination. While on the topic of adding new things to the park, I haven't really talked about any new rides that I would want to add, and have only discussed what modifications to existing rides I would want to make. Well, for starters, I have always wanted to see a 400+ foot Star Flyer at this park, likely just named Sky Screamer. I think the best spot for this would be in the current Golden Bear Theater footprint, as it wouldn't occupy much square footage. Not only that, but there is also a huge gap of attractions between Full Throttle and Goliath, unless you want to count Bugs Bunny World. The other potential spot would be in Deja Vu's old location, but I just feel that the views from that corner of the park would not be as impressive. In terms of roller coasters, I think Magic Mountain should take a break from adding new coasters for the time being, and allow some of the other Six Flags parks to receive major coasters instead. I definitely would want to focus on maintaining and enhancing the 20 roller coasters that we already have operating, but when it eventually comes time to add a brand new roller coaster, I really want to go for something that is just super high quality, unique, and original. There's just too many gimmicky world's first or world's tallest blah 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 roller coasters in the Six Flags chain. I mean, look at the last several coasters Magic Mountain added. Wonder Woman, world's tallest and longest single rail coaster. West Coast Racers, world's first quadruple launch twin lap racing coaster. Twisted Colossus, longest and only dueling hybrid roller coaster. Full Throttle, tallest and fastest looping coaster. You get the idea. But anyways, I would love for Magic Mountain to expand and use this little bit of land behind Viper and near X2 to construct something like an awesome B&M Giga Coaster or a new gen Intamin Blitz similar to Velocicoaster. This land is also very hilly, and I think B&M or Intamin could really get creative with this terrain, creating an awesome terrain coaster, especially if it's a Giga. Like, out of every operating Giga out there, not a single one is a terrain coaster. How cool would it be if Magic Mountain constructed a Giga Coaster that interacts heavily with the terrain at high speeds, or likewise an Intamin multi-launch? Those are just two ideas for a larger, distant future investment. Before I conclude this video, I'd like to take a look at some various random minor enhancements that I would like to make to the park. First of all, add more drinking fountains around the park, and make them not taste like garbage, please. Also, I'd like to see the photo booths on all of the rides frequently open and the cameras operational. Looking at you, Scream. I'd definitely like to extend the hours as well. I've honestly never been a fan of Magic Mountain always opening at 10:30 a.m. and 10 a.m. at the earliest. Meanwhile, Knott's and Disney usually open at either 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. at the earliest. I think 9 a.m. would be a good opening time, and then on weekends in a park this massive and popular, I think 10 or 11 p.m. would be a good closing time. On less busy days, I think anywhere anywhere between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. are good closing times, but this 5 p.m. crap needs to vanish. Speaking of vanishing, whatever happened to the giant inflatable spider on Colossus during Fright Fest? There's still plenty of room for that thing on Twisted Colossus. Bring that back. That was literally the best decoration in the whole park. And I know that ride can't exactly go backwards anymore, but I don't think it's a bad idea to offer alternative ride experiences during special events like Fright Fest or Holiday in the Park. The VR didn't work out too great, so maybe avoid that. But hey, make Batman go backwards again. Make Ninja go backwards if that's possible. Make Revolution go backwards, or add a spinning car onto it or something. I don't know. And the final thing is merchandise. Holy cow, does Six Flags merch as a whole just suck. Six Flags reuses the exact same designs for a lot of their apparel, and there's also just way too much general Six Flags merch, and by that I mean apparel or souvenirs that literally just say Six Flags on them and nothing else. I definitely love Cedar Fair merch and how there's much more merchandise that's original or unique to a specific park. Cedar Point, for example, has some of the best merchandise with apparel and souvenirs available for just about all of their individual rides, and then a vast selection of merch that says Cedar Point on it in a design that is not reused from other Cedar Fair parks. I think Six Flags as a whole, not just Magic Mountain, could really improve when it comes to merchandise, and I definitely want to fix that. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. Keep in mind that everything discussed in this video is completely hypothetical, because the chances of me actually running and having full control of Six Flags Magic Mountain at any point in time are probably less than 1%. So don't take this video as a bunch of things that are likely to happen or predictions. These are just things that I personally want to do with this park to make it better in my opinion. Obviously, not everyone is going to agree with some of my theoretical enhancements, so I'd love to see what modifications, additions, or removals that you would personally make to Six Flags Magic Mountain in the comments below. And while you're down there, feel free to like the video and subscribe with notifications turned on so you'll be alerted whenever I upload a new video. But until then, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.